Welcome to another Cult of Odd interview session. These are the types of interviews you get as a patron of our Patreon. This time Odd sits down with indie filmmaker Bron Theron, who has a movie called Half-Dead Fred premiering August 7th in Flint, Michigan. The movie stars Corin Nemec as Fred, a detective who after a near-death experience can communicate with the dead. Bron talks about the movie. His career as not only a director, but an actor, a producer and a writer. When it comes to indie filmmaking, you have to be a jack of all trades. Please enjoy this interview and stick around after for the trailer for Half-Dead Fred.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another interview sessions with the Cult of Odd. And with me this time is independent filmmaker, actor, writer, producer, Bron Theron.
Yes, you did it. Bron Theron.
My mouth wanted to go to how I said it wrong the first time, and it was like, no brain. Let's get this together.
Yeah, that's correct. Bron Theron.
Okay, so Bron, you have a movie that is set to release here in Michigan on Sunday, August 7th, up in Flint, Michigan, a movie called Half-Dead Fred.
That is correct. We have the premiere, the red carpet event of the movie Half-Dead Fred. Yeah, we shot it mainly in Flint, Michigan, so we thought only appropriate to, do the premiere there.
Now, the story of Half-Dead Fred, the synopsis that I read is a detective who is also a medium who had a near-death experience, is able to speak to the dead, and this is one of his cases in Michigan, correct?
Correct. So the guy's name is Freddie Nash, played by actor Corin Nemec. Freddie Nash is a medium detective who is actually from California. He lives in California, so our story starts off in California, and it kind of shows him solve a case really quickly and kind of establish his character. It gives you a little bit of insight of what happened to him, and what happened to him was exactly what you said. He was in an accident. I don't want to give away too much, but he was in an accident, and from that point on, he has the ability to speak to the dead. There is a murder that happens in Flint, Michigan, and since he has some ties to Michigan based on his ex-wife, he goes there and tries to solve this case. And while doing so, there's also some other elements that come up. There is a treasure hunt element in the story, and it's a lot of stuff going on in Flint, Michigan, a lot of haunting.
No, I watched the trailer and I was hooked. Honestly, I was in. The trailer gave me shades of The Sixth Sense, a little bit of Odd Thomas, a little bit of The Goonies with the treasure hunt, and of course the fact that it's right here in Michigan. I'm a big proponent for everything Michigan, so I'm in. Sure. As soon as I'm able to see it, I totally am going to check it out. Plus, I really like Corin Nemec, and I was looking at the cast list, and you've also got was it Jeremy London?
It's Jason
London. That's
his
right.
Brother. Yeah. He was in the movie Dazed and Confused, and a bunch of other stuff. He was in some horror movies. I think the redo of Christine, if you ever saw that one, or Christine 2, maybe. He has a good him and Corin both have a large list of film. They have pretty good careers. And we also have an actress named Tiffany Shepis.
Yep.
If you know who that is, she was in Romeo and Juliet, which if you're ever familiar,
I'm a big Troma fan.
Troma guy, yeah. So she was great to work with. She was very cool. So yeah, we have a list of some actors in there.
So I got to ask, you're originally based in California. Why Michigan and specifically Flint for the location of the movie?
So, right, I've been going to Flint for a while now, since 2017. I do murals. So I work with the Flint Public Art Projects on different murals around the city. And I believe in 2019, I was staying at the guy that runs that program. His name is Joe Scapani. And he has a huge house, right? He has like a 4-story house that it doesn't look creepy, but it does look creepy. For somebody from California, it looks kind of creepy because we're not used to that architecture. And late at night, I would hear noises and stuff like that. And it was kind of like a joke in a way. It was like, we should make a horror movie here because it's so scary, it's eerie or whatever. And on top of that, incidentally, he wrote a book called Haunted Flint, where he went around to all the places in Flint that were, you know, notoriously known for being haunted, and wrote in his book. Actually, he just did a new book, so he's already has that behind him. So he's actually a character in the movie. He basically plays himself in the movie, which is kind of funny.
Well, you didn't have to get into character then.
No, not much. I just said, you know, be yourself and try to say these lines. But that's why it was Flint, because I have friends there, and I go there often, and we had the location. It's most of the time when you're doing independent film, it's about your resources, and that was a really strong resource. Also, on top of, you know, having that resource, we have a lot of support from the people in Flint. Flint people have been pretty cool. The locations, most of the locations they gave us for free. So we didn't really have to spend a lot of money on that. We did a casting in Flint. We did a lot of stuff in Flint that I feel like it's more of a Flint film than anything else. You know, we shot 14 days there and only 4 days in Long Beach. And I live in Long Beach, you know, or 1 day in Burbank. I'm sorry. We did do a studio day. We did 1 day at a studio and then a few days in Long Beach. But I feel like this is a Flint film. And the reason why is because I go there every summer. I'm going to keep going there every summer. And, you know, we're going to probably be playing this movie there. I don't know. We're gonna make it like a cult movie, you know, kind of like how Rocky Horror Picture Show did, you know, that like we just did that actually. We did a private screening Sunday night, and we played the drinking game, we played the interaction, and it looked pretty good to me. So yeah, Flint's got a lot of stuff coming up. We have a lot of plans for Flint.
That's awesome though. The being a Michigan resident, I know the history that Flint has had to go through and all the trials and tribulations. So it's awesome to see anyone, and especially someone like from California, you know, taking an interest in the city and wanting to help it rebuild itself.
Yeah, well, Joe Scapani is a big part of that. He really wants, you know, beautiful things to happen in the city. And I don't know what the count is, but he's put over 100 murals in the city, you know, and he's had artists fly in, local artists do stuff. Everyone has spent a lot of time making Flint a better place. And just like you said, like, we don't want to hear, you know, the sob story about the GM factory or the water crisis or this negative shit. You know what I mean? We want to hear solutions and positive things happening.
Yeah.
And one positive thing could happen there, and this is wide open there, believe me. They have a lot of space that you could bring the film industry there and shoot movies all the time. It's possible. Will it happen? I don't know. I'd like to make it happen or be a part of it, you know, to happen, because I'd like to go there and make films. But it takes a little bit of help, you know, from the community, from politicians, if they bring back the tax incentives in Michigan, that would help. I'll tell you that.
I was just going to say that Michigan did have that filmmaker tax incentive. I know a lot of independent filmmakers here kind of got screwed on the deal, but it was really good for like outsiders coming in. So it was a sticky situation, but it did allow a lot of really cool things to happen here within the state for the short period that the film incentive was there.
Well, now I'm not super big into politics, and I don't, you know, there's always a flip side, right? There's always, you know, you're saying like, okay, these tax incentives doesn't feel like it helps inside people in Michigan, it only helps outsider people. And I've heard this argument before, and it's justified, but you have to remember this. Like, let's say these production crew comes in and they do whatever, right? When they bring their production crew and they get the tax breaks, well, still they're bringing a lot of business to that local area, even if they bring their own people in. Now when we're talking about Half Dead Fred, I hired a bunch of people from Flint, so don't get it twisted. I was way into Flint people, right? But when we're talking Hollywood people, sure, they bring tons of people in, but they still got to get catering there. They got to rent equipment. They got to rent locations. They're still bringing an amazing amount of money to that economy, wherever it is in Michigan, you know, Flint or wherever else. They're still helping the economy. So the tax breaks is almost the least I feel like the government can do to help them bring more money to that place.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't want it to sound like I was really shitting on it whatsoever. It was more I I knew quite a few independent filmmakers at the time that the tax incentive was there,
Yeah.
and they felt it was helpful, but it felt like an unbalanced thing is what
Yeah.
they would say. And
Yeah.
after hearing how the things that they had to go through, and then talking to a few other filmmakers that were a little higher above the indie scene, you do
Yeah.
see that there is a little bit, but it's understandable because you're gonna want Hollywood to come in. Hollywood has the money. The dude that lives down the street that managed to throw together 40-50,000 to try and make a movie isn't going to do as much business necessarily as Hollywood coming in and, like you said, paying for catering, paying
Right.
for lodging,
Yeah.
paying for use of space and stuff like that. So like
Yeah.
I understand. And
Right.
I hope they do bring it back, because I would like to see. Michigan is a beautiful state. We've got
Yeah.
every kind of locale you could want for a movie within the mitten.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree, man. I like Michigan quite a bit. And I plan on going there quite a bit.
Yeah.
If not, if not moving there at some point, I don't know. But uh, I do like Michigan, and I have a lot of friends there, and that's the key element of the discussion. Like you want to make movies with people that are, your friends and that have worked on movies with you in the past. That's what you want to do.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because I was going to mention that a little bit later. I do see that because I trolled your IMDb, and I see that you do tend to work with people you've worked with before, whether you've been an actor
Sure.
and then pulled them into your movies,
Yeah.
or how it goes. So
Yeah.
like, when you how do you go about doing that? Like, is it just a matter of, we had a good time together and, hey, I've got this idea, do you want to do it?
Sometimes that's the way it is. I mean, everything is relationship based. You know what I mean? It's a relationship based on how well I can tell a joke to you or not. Whether you receive it. For example, I was friends with Corin already. You know what I mean? I was like, hey, I wrote this thing. Pretty much wrote it with you in mind. If you want to do it, let's do it. That's a friendship kind of negotiation. You know what I mean? um a lot of times in independent film, there's not a lot of money involved. If you looked at my IMDb, I'm sure half the things on my IMDb, there's not really a budget behind those. So if somebody's going to act in my thing or whatever, later on I'll act in their thing. You know what I mean? They know that I act. It's just getting a job as an actor is quite difficult. And then it's fun. It's a catch-22. When you need an actor, you know what I mean? You need one. But then when people are casting, there's 1,000 people auditioning for a one-line role. You know what I mean? It's a weird little world. So that's why you see the same people working with the same people. If they work well together, why break that magic?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. That's right. I do plenty of stuff with my buddies, and if they put me in their stuff and I put them in my stuff, and then that's just how you build credits too. It's kind of like don't sit around and wait for an audition or wait for Hollywood to come to you. It's just not going to happen that way unless you have an amazing team behind you. If you have 20 people, your agent, your manager, you have a publicist, you have a lawyer, you have all these things, and they're fighting for you every day, and you're in those circles, good for you. You got in the circles, good. But most of us have to hustle and make our own circle. We're just making our own circle. That's all we're doing.
It's no different here in the radio and the podcasting world, man. Is
Sure.
you build your communities and your connections and whatnot like that. Yeah, I've been doing this for 15 years, so like, everybody that has been doing it less time than me looks at me like, how are you able to talk to these people? Because and my only answer is, I have no fear. You can tell me no, and it doesn't hurt my feelings.
Like no, as in what? A question to an answer to a question, or
Well, anything, honestly. Like, so I put out the call through that Facebook group that Joe and Steve is running, and like, hey, do you want to talk about your movies? Do you want to talk about your career? And I don't have any problems tracking down information for celebrities and stuff like that, and sending off emails, because the worst they can do is say no. And
right? Yeah.
and I live, I move on.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a no business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's an entertainment, podcasting is just very similar to any other entertainment part, and you just hear no all the time. There's things that I'm able to do in the entertainment industry, but if people keep saying no, I'm not able to do them with them. But that doesn't mean that I can't do it, right?
Yep.
So, like I said, you're just hustling and you're making your own situation. You're making it happen. Which brings me up. One of the things I did want to talk about is if you're familiar with this thing, it's called Indiegogo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a fundraising for films. Now they've had fundraising things, for quite a while from the internet, Kickstarter, GoFundMe. There's all of these kind of things. But I feel like the Indiegogo website in particular is more geared and more friendly for films. I think people that are, and it does all kinds of other shit, don't get me wrong, but for films, I feel like there's a community. They've already created a community. Do you know what I mean? Of people that want to do
100% agree. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right on the mark.
And I almost feel like it's so similar to a lot of things that happen in Hollywood anyway. Meaning like, when producers come in with money, with anyone comes in with money, it usually comes with power and control over the project, now Indiegogo isn't exactly like that, but there's forms of it because they're selling perks of, you could do A, B, and C, you could sit in on casting, you can be in the movie, which that one's a real popular one because everybody thinks they can act, everyone wants to be an actor, which is fine, but everybody has this idea that that's a dream of theirs,
I'm gonna get discovered.
Yeah, I'm gonna get discovered. You might not do it through Indiegogo, but it's a good step, you know what I mean? It's a good thing to be involved with. And most of the time I've found that it is a strong film loving community, which that's the most important part. I guess that is what I'm getting at. I mean, if you're willing to spend the money on films, it means you must love film to some degree, and that's who you want to make a movie with. Actually, you want to be around people that are super passionate about making this movie, so yeah. I just think it's if you aren't familiar, if our listeners that are watching this or listening want to know more about independent film in particular, maybe troll some Indiegogo stuff and look at how they're doing it, look at their business model. And it's not always roses. Some are not successful, some are successful, some are good movies, some are bad movies, some are in between movies, you know what I mean? All movies are different, you know what I mean? It's a journey either way, but at least you could look at it and kind of like navigate, oh, this is what's going on. Because I do feel like that's like a newer business model for independent films that are blowing up in a big way right now.
Oh yeah, I've seen probably half a dozen or so independent films that got their funding because of Indiegogo. Even big Hollywood directors, if you want to call them that, have used it. If I'm not mistaken, Kevin Smith used it for one of his movies as well.
Which one?
I want to say it was Red State.
Oh, maybe. That was a weird movie.
It was, but like
I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith, and the only time I've ever talked to that guy was because of Red State. I talked to him on Twitter, and he's notorious for talking back to people, so that's kind of cool of him. But he did talk back to me about that. I was just like, bro, that was a weird, this is a long time ago, by the way, but I was like, that was a weird one for you, sir. You know what I mean? Because it really was. It's very left field for Kevin.
I think it was outside the box, and that's what made it great. So I actually was at a screening that they did here for Red State. Okay. We were able to fund money through the show and did tickets. So me and my then wife went, and I actually got to talk to Kevin because I stayed for the Q&A afterwards.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That movie was just wild to see for the first time in the theater with the director sitting there, and you're just like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's a weird one for him.
Well, what was the other one? Tusk was another one that was just.
I haven't seen Tusk. Sorry. Yeah,
really?
I haven't seen it yet. I will though. I like Justin Long a lot.
You talk about weird.
Yeah, I heard it was really weird. I'll see it. It's on my list.
Let me ask you this: you've got quite a few credits here under your belt. Which came first, the love of writing or the want to act?
Oh, for sure, acting. Because it's just like playing. Acting for me, acting is the easiest part of this whole, dream of filmmaking. The dream of filmmaking for me, I think, came from wanting to make people laugh. I'm a super comedic. I'm into comedy. I just like making people laugh. That's it. And I think the acting came first. But as you're an actor down here in LA area, it's very difficult to get jobs, like I said before. But you start auditioning, you start realizing, you read these scripts and you're like, man, they're pretty bad. I'm auditioning, I'm going out and I'm spilling my guts doing this, driving 40, 50 miles to do this audition to a place for a movie or a pilot or whatever. And you read the script and you're like, it's not even good. Why am I going out of my way to do all this stuff so I can be seen on camera? I don't care that much about being seen on camera, especially now because I'm older now. Maybe I cared more when I was 20, but I don't care now. I want to make good stories happen. So I think that's what happened. The love of writing and actually directing and making the product came later, because I do think acting is super fun. And, you get to go home at the end of the day. Everybody else has to stay and clean up. And then afterwards, you're in post for months to a year. But the actors are like, yeah, I did my thing. I get to go home and have a drink or whatever, relax. And so, yeah, it came from acting. But now I'm super heavy into writing. I'm super heavy into crafting, and I edit. I do, anything that a independent filmmaker has to do, I do it.
So everything.
Pretty much. I'm not too good at sound, but I'm still like the sound. I'm still like the music supervisor. You know what I mean? I'm not good at color correcting. I'm not good at that. But everything else, I did it. But you know what I mean? Like I pretty much work on everything.
But the thing is so the fact that you're not good at it means you at least attempted it. You tried to learn the job, and that's enough.
I can do color correcting if I have to, but it won't look good. You won't like it. You know what I mean? You'll criticize it and be like, well, what happened here? Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, that's me. I'm not good at that. I can't be good at everything. You know what I mean? You can only try to do stuff as much as you can. But that's what to be honest, this is what a director does. A director puts people that are good at that position in those positions to make the overall vision, hopefully close to his vision, There's no way you could do everything. You get burnt out and blow your brains out,
Understandable. So I did as much as I could to try to watch some of your stuff. And one of the ones that I was able to find online on YouTube was a short that you acted in called The Post.
Okay. Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing, like, because you see everything leading up and they're talking about this Tucker guy. And I was like, I haven't seen him yet. He's got to be playing Tucker. And the fact that you get to that point and Tucker's sitting there like just spewing bullshit onto the Facebook. And then after a phone conversation, which I was still trying to figure out like how the phone conversation really changed his mind that much, because it didn't seem like there was enough like revelatory stuff from the opposite side of the phone conversation. But it was nice to see that, people can change.
Right. I think I didn't write or direct that. I was just acting in that. So my buddy Chad, he is the AC and he acted in the movie Half Dead Fred. He worked on that and his wife directed it. So it's kind of like their baby. So I don't know. I'll just tell you what I thought in my mind from script to end. It was one of those videos where we are living in an internet world where we just type all the time and talk online. And sometimes I think people forget what words mean to some people. And I think that was kind of the point behind that one. The guy that I was playing, Tucker, was just typing away. I think he was playing a kind of a Republican-y, conservative, his ideas were this way. and he had grown up in around these people that the words that he spewed out, like you said, on the internet kind of offended or talked about. You know what I mean? So I think that's what they were trying to get at, you know, the irony of people talking on the internet versus the hypocriticism that they might, you know, be like in real life. Don't forget, you know, it's a real world out there, and the internet's not exactly real. You know, I mean, it's real to the point where we're typing and that's what we're saying, but I think a lot of times it gets away from us in our head how we affect each other in this virtual reality world. You know what I mean? I think that was their point.
I have a few friends that sum it up as saying that people forgot because of the internet and being behind a screen that they can get punched in the mouth if they said the wrong thing.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's what they were alluding to. Yeah, but that was one of the things. Perfect example of how, you know, he wants me to act in some stuff. I'll go and act. For that guy, Chad, the guy that did the post, I just did this other role where I was an old man. They put up all this old man makeup on me, and they let me be this old man for, you know, whatever, 15, 20 page script. Now that's a dream come true for like people that really want to act and be different people. That's a dream come true. Anytime someone says, oh yeah, we're going to put prosthetics on you, we're going to make you look like this, we're going to do that, you're going to be this character. Now that's acting, you know, like if you go in and you're like basically yourself, well, which I do a lot of, don't get me wrong. I come in and I'm myself with a smart ass attitude and stuff like that. But for, I think, people that are super into acting, I think that's the funnest part to play.
What movie was that, or what film?
It's not out yet. It's actually a feature, but it's an anthology. And ours is called well, it's called Karma, the whole movie, and ours is the K, and ours is called Keepsake. So our section is called Keepsake. It might be on IMDb, actually, if you want to look that up.
That's well, I've got it open here, so I can refer back and forth to it.
You're already on it.
Yeah, no, there was one on here that I was curious of. It's a short film that you're filming currently. I don't know or that is in filming currently. I don't know if you can say too much about it, but the title alone caught me. Lovecraft.
Oh, Lovecraft. Yeah. Well, I just shot I have a tiny little section in that. Lovecraft is a buddy of mine named Michael Beardsley. That's his baby. And it's about the online dating, the apps. You know, I'm not familiar with them because I've never been on them, but I do know you swipe right and left if you like the person or whatever. And that's what that one is about. And my tiny part is I play some shirtless guy, some douche, you know what I mean? Which is awesome. I love playing, I like playing womanizing asshole douche characters because I've had the same lady for 20 years. So I'm like very opposite of that. So when I'm able to play the ladies' man, I like to do it. It's funny. It's ironic, you know?
All right. So you've got a credit on here under your directing belt. From 2008, that Primal Rap, that looks like it's a hip hop send up to Spinal Tap. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, it's a cross between 8 Mile and Spinal Tap. So it's like a mockumentary movie feature, but it's actually these two fictional characters, and we put them in real situations. So it's kind of like Spinal Tap, but it's also a little bit like maybe Borat or Bruno. I don't know how much those are faked, you know what I mean? But stealing Britney Spears, I think, was fake. So I don't know how much of it's real, I mean. But we actually went to like real rap battles. And if you're familiar with Project Blowed, we went to the Project Blowed anniversary here in Los Angeles. That's a huge underground, you know, rapper, hip hop in general, organization, crew that's been around for a long time. So we put these fictional idiots, basically, idiot savants, into these situations, and that was really fun. That felt like a long time ago now, you know, especially when you say 2008, that feels like forever ago.
Sorry.
it dates me, but we luckily enough, we had our finale at the Viper Room, if you're familiar with the Viper Room. infamous Viper Room in Los Angeles, Hollywood. But yeah, I had a lot of fun making that movie. There's a lot of big rappers in that movie. KRS-One is in that movie. Twist is in that movie. Pharcyde's in that movie. There's a bunch of rappers. So yeah, that was one of my first directorial debuts with actors. I had done a lot of documentaries before that, but that was my first one with actors.
Now you said you took your two idiots and put them in real situations.
Right.
How close did they come to getting their ass kicked?
That's a good question. One of them was a little. We went out this one night, and one of the actors was drunk, and I think he was really trying to get punched. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that type.
For example, we were at the Vaughn's late at night, and he was just like punching things and pushing over shopping carts, and people would come out of the Vaughn's and he would talk to them, and we didn't know these people at all. And he would be like, I remember this one, he was like, oh, you got I think it was a white girl. He's like, oh, you got a white girl? Shit, they're hella easy to get. And I don't know, like he was saying these things and I'm just like, okay, someone's going to do something. Nobody did. I think they just saw the camera and they just didn't think that,
they wanted evidence.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, back then it was, kind of a bigger camera. Yeah. So it wasn't like hiding it or prompt style. We were just trying to get B-roll for this guy. And yeah, I think he was trying to get in a fight that night. But no rap battlers. I noticed. I didn't think any rap battlers were going to get in a fight. You know what I mean? And that is where it could be heated. You know what I mean? But I didn't see any of that. Everybody was pretty, yeah.
Yeah, because when you likened it to like how Borat and stuff happens, like I've seen both those movies and I'm sitting there like, how does this man not get his teeth knocked in? Like,
right.
You know, so if you're doing an indie version of something like that, where you don't probably have the same security or the same, protections.
Yeah.
I would have assumed that you rode that line.
I was on a set one time with Sacha Baron Cohen, and he was doing, I think it was a Borat stunt. And I don't know if it was for the movie or whatever, but I was talking to one of his security guards and I asked pretty much exactly what you just said. I was like, yo, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, how can he do that? Because it was on the main street. It was on like Hollywood Boulevard. And the guy goes, yeah, a lot of this is fake. A lot of it's fake. And I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? I was totally naive to it. I just didn't think about it being fake so much, because that's the shtick. But yeah, he that's what he was saying. And I kind of believe him because he's security, you know what I mean? Right. He's there all the time. So I believe him.
Now you got your start in filmmaking or in the film industry as a location liaison for a big Hollywood production, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that is my start, but that's probably the biggest. Well, no, I worked for 20th Century Fox twice, actually, and both for Robert Rodriguez, actually, ironically. One was for the movie you're talking about, which was Predators. I was a location liaison in Hawaii. And that was amazing to see. There were some connections there because the director of that film, his name is Nimrod Antel. He did the Predators movie. It was written by Robert Rodriguez, produced by Robert Rodriguez, and he told me that he got in there because of Robert Rodriguez. I hit it off really well with the director because we both come from a graffiti background. We were doing graffiti as kids and we knew a lot of the same people in that world. And it was really cool to see him work in that film. That was a pretty good film too. And then the other one is, ironically, I was doing some graffiti for the Comic-Con for Machete. And I didn't get to talk to Robert Rodriguez. I wanted to because I'm a super big fan. But he looked like he was on the phone the whole time. So I'm not sure if that was pretend or not, but he wasn't trying to talk to anybody. So I didn't talk to him. I did talk to Michelle Rodriguez and she was super cool. but yeah, that wasn't my start though. It's just luckily enough I got a job through connections to get that job.
So what was your start in Hollywood?
I would say the start was, well, so I moved down here, and the first movie I booked was a graffiti movie as an actor. It was called Transit, and that movie was a low budget movie, but it went on to get distribution, meaning they made the DVDs and they went to Blockbuster and Hollywood Video back when that was the thing. I would say that was my first movie that made it somewhat successful. I played a character named AM, which was like the main antagonist, I'd say, in that movie. But then instead of keep doing films, I got a job, but it was through the Backstage West, which is a trade newspaper out here for entertainment. I got a job touring, doing live painting with bands. So that kind of took me away from filmmaking for a while, in a sense, because I was just live painting when they were with, like, the Roots were on stage, or LL Cool J, or some rap group or hip hop or R&B. But what it helped me is I wasn't a computer guy. I didn't have a video camera. When I went on those tours, I made enough money to get a video camera, videotape all the graffiti in all the places I traveled to. And then when I went home, I bought a computer and taught myself how to edit, and I made little graffiti documentaries. So it kind of made me be a documentarian, you know what I mean, of graffiti. And then I put out my own films. Then I put out my own DVDs. I manufactured DVDs and sold them to different distribution companies that are in that niche. That's a whole other niche, but it was a profitable niche at the time. It was profitable until about 2008, until I made that Primal Rap film. So I would say those made me get into that movie. And honestly, that movie took so much out of me. I went to all the film festivals and did all this stuff and spent all this money that I didn't make films for a while after Primal Rap. It burnt me out. So it took me a while to get back into it. And when I did get back into it, I just started going to acting classes again. And that's kind of how I got back into it. So I've taken these breaks, I'd say, in this path.
Yeah, it looks like from 2008 to 2015 was the break. You showed up in ACAB after your break.
Yeah, that's pretty much accurate. Yeah. And then 2015, I would say that's when I started acting classes again. Started doing music videos. I got a strong connection to getting in some good music videos, so I do those, and then I made a couple of my own as a director. But yeah, that's absolutely right. Big break.
What is BZ Casting?
BZ Casting is short for Billy Zane Casting, and we made this pilot about two casting directors. I played one of them. It's just a comedy that's supposedly Billy Zane owns this casting company, and the running joke is kind of like nobody knows who Billy Zane is, and but everybody knows who Billy Zane is. You know what I mean? In my world, or in our world that we created, but not a lot of these people that come in for the audition for whatever we're casting for. And that's so old that the premise of the story has. The beginning starts off with, oh my God, they casted Jeremy Piven as Aquaman. Aquaman, oh, he's too old for that. Like, that's what we start off talking as. And as you know now, Jeremy Piven is not Aquaman.
No. Although I think I would have paid to see that movie.
It's a comedy, you know what I mean?
Now it says completed. Is it like available anywhere? Or?
Yeah, I can send it to you.
Oh.
No, it's just a pitch pilot. That means that it is done and you can watch it. It's not perfect, but I think it's funny. It's a pitch pilot, so you can get the funding to make a half-hour series, or a 24-minute series or something like that. You know what I mean? That's all it was. It was a pitch pilot. Originally, it was made for a showcase that never happened at that acting at the school that I went to, the acting school. So originally it wasn't something that was going to be filmed, but then I was like, let's just film it, all these things. Basically, it's my school. I learned, you know what I mean? I learned from this, and I learned from that, and I learned from this. I didn't go to film school. So I just did it myself and learned what not to do and what I should do,
Now you got 14 credits listed as a producer, and I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you right now, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm sure everybody that has nothing to do with the entertainment industry wants to know. What the
Okay.
hell does a producer do?
Well, that word can mean so many different things. For me, when I produce projects that I'm more in control of, it means everything from casting to location scouting to finding the budget to getting the lighting people, the editor, if I'm not editing, the sound. It means so much. It can mean that you got on Indiegogo and just said, hey, I like your project. I want a producer credit. Here's $500. Here's $1,000. You know what I mean?
You produced money.
I produced the money, right? But that is such a low definition of a producer. Normally, and I had this conversation the other night with somebody else in the industry at some party. It means something different to everyone. You know what I mean? It means something different to everyone. That's the best way to describe it. But for an independent film producer, it means you do a lot of work. You know what I mean? It means that you wake up during production in the middle of the night and check your emails and check your text to make sure that nobody canceled on you, that someone doesn't have COVID, that location's still secure, that, you know what I mean? That is a producer's job. It's solving problems, because problems arise during production. When you're making these movies, problems come, and you have to have somebody or multiple people to solve problems in different categories. And that's, I would say, the best definition of a producer for me. Problem solver.
As a producer, your job is to stand outside the outhouse with the fire extinguisher just in case the shit house goes up in flames.
Yes, it could. I mean, I have done so many different things. It means so many different things. Do you know what Firewatch means?
No.
Firewatch means that this equipment is from the trailer or whatever is maybe open or available outside. It means you have to watch it. You mean someone has to be on guard, right? Because someone walking by might just take it, right? That's called Firewatch. Well, I've done Firewatch on my own projects that I'm directing. You know, when everyone goes to lunch, I'm like, no problem. You go get food. I'm going to Firewatch for 20 minutes while you eat. You know, I've done it all because independent films, that's just what it is. If you have a huge budget, you have all these human beings in different positions and they do all these jobs. If you're an independent film producer, you're just wearing so many hats. So a producer could mean 100 different things. But at the end of the day, if you just follow what, you know, the definition of produce is you're making something, right? So you got to be able to make something. So whatever problems that arise that stop you from making this thing, you have to solve those problems and make sure it gets made.
What it sounds like, Bron, is you're not afraid to get your hands dirty.
No, I get my hands dirty plenty.
But I mean, that's the mark of a truly respectable independent filmmaker, you know, is that they're not afraid to jump in and be whatever the production needs at any given moment.
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, this film that we just did, The Half Dead Fred, I was digging graves, you know what I mean? Because I didn't have anybody, I didn't hire anybody with a work definition description that says grave digger, right? So I was like, I better do it. So I took my tech director and I'm all, hey, you're gonna have to direct these scenes in this real graveyard over here, where I have to go to a fake graveyard basically and dig with. I brought the props guy, and I brought my other buddy, he was an actor in it, Seth. He was the set designer. So I brought the set designer and the props guy. I'm all, you're going to help me dig this thing. And they did help me. We switched off digging because when you dig, if you dig things, you get blisters like pretty quickly. You know, it's manual labor is pretty, you know, and it was already halfway dug when I got there too. And it was still hard. You know what I mean? I still had to make it look like we had a grave and we dug a grave. You know, you still had to, it has to be deep enough, you know, or it's believable. But yeah.
So I know this is probably not a thought in your mind right now, but especially with Half Dead Fred getting ready to premiere, and I'm sure you're going to travel and show it as many places as you can. But what's next?
Oh, that's easy. I've been working on a script called Pancake Man, and it's the backstory of it is one of the actors and producers in Half Dead Fred, which actually I met through Indiegogo. Which, by the way, Indiegogo is really good for networking. So I do. We didn't mention that before, but it's a good networking tool. You meet a lot of people on set. So I met a buddy of mine now on set. I've been in a couple movies with him. Ironically, he kills me in both movies, I think, or I die in both movies with him or something. Lots of death. Anyway, this guy wanted to make a slasher, and I don't like slashers, and we toy with it back and forth. Now, unless you have the argument that like Predator is a slasher or Terminator is a slasher, if you have these arguments, which I've had with people, then I do like slashers.
I don't buy it. They're sci-fi movies at best.
I believe that too. I believe that too. But there's a whole bunch of people that say Predator is slashing people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't like the simple concept of guy running around with a knife killing people, right? I just think it's lazy writing, right? So I was always I was like, slasher. Meh. You know what I mean? Like, good luck with that. I'll be in it if you want, but you know what I mean?
Right.
But then something happened and they didn't like the script or the way it was going. And I was coming home on a flight and I had nothing to do on this flight. There was no books. It was a cheap flight, like Spirit or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I had no book or no, and I thought in my head, I'm like, well, how could I make a slasher good? Like, how can I make a story that I'm willing to believe in and watch and want to know, a reveal, so to say. So I started writing one, and I based it on him because he likes pancakes so much. So it's called Pancake Man. And it's similar to, it starts off, do you remember the movie Falling Down?
Yes.
Okay, I love that movie.
Same.
And that movie has a scene in it where, and I think a lot of people like this movie, just like you do, you're like, same. I think it's because it's about a human that got fed up. It's something just ticked and he's like, I'm over it, I'm doing fuck you moves, for the rest of the movie, right?
I like that, fuck you moves.
So that's what I feel like I'm writing. But anyway, the scene where he's trying to get breakfast and they won't serve him breakfast because it's 10:30 and they stopped at 10:30, or whatever. Okay, my movie starts off like that, okay? But he's trying to get pancakes. And there's a whole story why he's trying to get pancakes or whatever. It's actually a more meaningful story than the title suggests, Pancake Man. Anyway, he starts killing people from the first scene. Now, the big difference is we have our lead character fed up doing fuck you moves and he's killing people. But after he kills someone, we have a flashback to why. There's a reason, like Reservoir Dogs maybe, or Boondock Saints, where they have a scene, then they have an explanation. So it's a lot of a flashback, and it goes like 6 minutes before, 66 minutes before, 66, we go in sixes. Anyway, so this guy's had a hard time, basically, and he's killing people. And it turns into a slasher movie based on this guy, because he's killing people with forks from the initial scene, mainly. But then I kind of tie in some other things, like kind of like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, where there's like 3 main stories and they all mesh and blend at the end. I have that going on in this story. So I have like somebody that's chasing him, and then I have another story of these gang members that are like, they see the stuff on the news and they think it'd be a good idea for them to rob a diner, thinking that like, oh, police are really lazy nowadays, they're not doing. So all these 3 things end in a Mexican standoff at the end. And I have a total different spin on a slasher, I believe. So it's called Pancake Man. Yeah.
I like that. It sounds good. It's been a while. Like, I kind of feel the same way about slashers. I grew up with them. Don't get me wrong. I've watched, Jason and Michael and Chucky and all those.
Right.
But it's been a while since there's been a slasher movie that made me go, huh. I think the last one I saw was a movie called Final Girls, and it was less about the slasher and more about the final girls in the movie. It was like Sleepaway Camp mixed with Last Action Hero.
Okay, I never
Uh,
seen that.
Yeah, so these girls, this group of teens get sucked into like an 80s horror movie via VHS cassette,
Okay.
and then they have to survive throughout it. And I know it sounds kind of hokey to describe it, but like I said, it was the last slasher flick that I think I saw that at least provided something different.
Have you seen Seven?
You talking about Brad Pitt?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would almost consider that a slasher of sorts.
Yeah, there's elements. I would say more psychological thriller. Like I got into this like with my group on Facebook too, because we talk movies and stuff all the time. And I was like, I put up the post of like, what do you consider the Gremlins movie? Do you consider it a Christmas movie, a horror movie, or a sci-fi movie?
Man, that's a little bit of both, a little bit of everything. That's hard.
I argue
it's a creature feature.
I argue that it is more sci-fi movie than it is anything else.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you look at some of the stuff that's in the scenes and the things that they're tapping into from like the set dressings and stuff like that,
Yeah,
it has more to do with like the old 50s sci-fi movies than it does a horror movie. And everyone tries to say Die Hard is a Christmas movie just because it takes place at Christmas, and that does not denote a Christmas movie in my mind. But
I'd say that's an action movie for sure.
yeah.
But they always play it during Christmas because it's Christmas in the movie, and they say ho ho ho.
Yeah, I'll watch it over most Christmas movies anyways.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I like Die Hard.
Yeah.
But Seven I like though. Seven I like whatever genre you put it in. There's blood, there's gore. I don't think there's scary elements per se, but again, I'm not a huge fan. It's funny because I'm not a huge fan of horror movies per se. They have to have a story with them. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, totally.
I like Sam Raimi stuff because he's genius. You know what I mean? But I don't know if I like the horror side of it as much as I just like what he does as, visually and I don't know. Like there's so many good things about Sam Raimi. I have screamed out loud though seeing a Sam Raimi movie from a horror scene. I've been like, oh, and that's rare. It's hard for me to do that. Are you scared? It was the one with Justin Long in it, with the flies coming out of the grandma's mouth. What movie was that? I don't know what it's called right now. Hold on. Hey, honey. What was the movie that was scary?
Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell. Thanks, honey.
You're welcome, dear.
Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
Drag Me to Hell. I was watching with my lady. She was in the other room, and I go, ah! And she comes in the room, so what? Because I don't usually get afraid from movies. I don't get afraid from any ghost movies. Were you afraid from Paranormal Activity? Did that give you anything? It didn't give you anything, right?
Nope. And I've been in situations like I believe in the paranormal. I believe in ghosts. I've been through my own experiences with things that I can't explain. And that movie was just so the Paranormal Activity movies, they were ruined for me long before they even became a thing. When Blair Witch did that whole found footage thing and they were trying to sell it as, this actually happened. And I'm like, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
No, it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't scared from Blair Witch either. I'm trying to think of a movie that really, really scared me. I mean, I think it has to do with your age too. I think when you're younger, things scare you different. Maybe Freddy Krueger might have scared me when I was younger. Do you remember that movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yep.
Donald Sutherland.
Mm-hmm.
That shit freaked me out. I think I was 12 or 11, 12 when I saw that. And I'm just like, oh shit.
I think, if I remember correctly, I think The Stuff disturbed me too.
The Stuff, I've seen that one. I remember that one.
Yeah. See, I grew up watching horror movies, man. Like
Yeah.
from a very early age, I was exposed to things that I probably shouldn't have been. And they started me with like those old like the 50s sci-fi horror movies, and then progressed me along. Like one of my mom's favorite horror movies was Night of the Lepus, which is about giant killer rabbits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not very good.
No, doesn't sound like it would be. But I
um
could see like stuffed animals flying at someone's face and they're going, ah.
Actually, it was
Kind of
worse.
shots.
They just like they superimposed like live rabbits, and they just made them bigger. Like it
Oh,
was just, it was bad. It was bad editing. Um,
wow.
I think the only slasher that I've ever felt was truly scary. Like I don't think Michael Myers or Jason are scary. Freddy was scary to me, but Freddy was scary more so for the fact that he would fuck with you
Right.
while he's trying to murder you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But what age did you see that movie at?
Um,
Teens?
oh no, I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, at least the first one, before I hit my teens.
Okay. I,
Um, but it wasn't so much that I was scared of it, it's the concept seemed scarier to me
mm,
than Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees just lumbering towards you. Here you
right.
have this guy that, looks like he could be living down the street, and he's going to murder you, and he's going to make fun of you while he's doing it. That to
In your
me is scarier than anything else.
in your sleep while you
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
Don't go to sleep. Yeah.
All right, Bron, you've made it through almost every random ass question that I have. Do you have anything else that you want to get out about Half Dead Fred before we move forward?
Oh yeah. Well, the description is on the IMDb, but for anybody that is interested in going to the screening is August 7th in Flint, Michigan, at the Capitol Theater. Um, Now, this film is a film noir mixed with paranormal. And if you don't know what a film noir is, it's kind of like well, this one is a first person narrative. A lot of film noirs are first person narrative, or they're in the side like a detective or somebody trying to solve something. It's like a type of style. It's very like Chinatown-ish or brick. And our lead character, which is what we talked about earlier, which is Corin Nemec, he's playing Freddie Nash. He is the lead detective of the story, and he's talking to you, kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And Ferris is talking to you. So, and it's that genre mixed with The Sixth Sense is a good reference, because I ironically have a nice twist at the end. I feel like it's modeled after Sixth Sense, I would say. I don't know if that's intentional, but that is the reality. If you ever Sixth Sense, no spoilers there. But if you're a fan of Sixth Sense, I think you'll like this movie. It's a very unfolding story, a reveal. It's a story. We don't have X-Men, special effects or drone shots, that come in. We do have some drone shots, but we don't have those, reverent shots that were, awesome. But it's a great movie to see, and I want people in Flint and anyone in Michigan to come out and see it. Like I told you, we casted from Flint. We used Flint crew. We rented all our equipment from Flint, lighting wise and stuff like that. We use all local locations. We even use the location names, their real names, in the movie because they requested it. They wanted the real locations, meaning like we didn't change it to Sally's Bar. It's Tim and Chili's. You know what I mean? That's their name. That's what they wanted to use. And I appreciate and thank the people in Flint and the all the supporters on Indiegogo. We did an Indiegogo for this as well. It wasn't the entire budget, but it helps. Everything helps. And I appreciate that. Anybody that donated, anybody that support, and anybody that loves independent film. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you at the premiere or at some premiere at some point in life.
All right, Bron, that's it. That's all I've got for you. I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. I really hope that the premiere goes well and you get a good reception for Half Dead Fred.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Hello, If you're watching this video, it means that I am now gone.
Anybody there? Hello?
The name is Freddie Nash. I work in a very niche market as a medium detective.
I can't sell the house, and I can't rent it out because everybody knows it's haunted.
When I was a kid, I thought I saw some things.
Sometimes ghosts don't even know they're haunted.
I don't know what else, and it's my fault!
Sometimes they don't even know they're dead.
And please tell me why shots are being fired in my bar, Brett.
Most of the time, they're just being dicks.